Well, we all want to achieve our goals in 2024, but sometimes it's hard to overcome self-doubt. News 8's David Bowman spoke with the author of an upcoming book that tackles just that. Take a look.
Well, it's that time of year where we set goals and try to become better versions of ourselves. But how do you unlock purpose and live an intentional life? We got John Miles, the author of the soon-to-be released book, Passion Struck, joining me now to talk more about this. John, thank you so much for joining me today.
David, it's such an honor to be here. Thank you for having me on your show.
Absolutely. So tell me how the story Passion Struck came about.
David, like anything, this was years in the making. However, I had a life-altering event that happened to me that really, I guess you could say, tidal waved this into motion. I had left the house on a Tuesday morning, dropped my daughter off at school, and at this point, it was just like any day. I went then to Orange Theory to take a fitness class, and it just so happened that we had some type of electrical short in the air conditioning system that caused a fire, and they had to shut down the gym. But that's not the most important aspect of this. What happened was, it turns out that I had a person who had been following me around who was interested in burglarizing my house. And it just so happened that on this morning, fate would intervene, that they decided to pick this day. So I think they went in thinking this was my normal routine. And when I walked into the house, unfortunately, I was face to face with an intruder in my house pointing a gun at me.
Oh my goodness.
And coming out of that moment, the weeks that followed, I just began really analyzing everything that I was doing in my life, and these aspirations that I had that I hadn't been taking action on. And it really caused me to start shifting. And so I went into some prolonged time where I was really doing self-awareness, mindful work. And coming out of that, I started to reapproach my whole life. It came up with 6 mindset shifts that I outline in the book, 6 behavior shifts. But when I brought forward this feeling that I had, where I just felt so consumed by this mission that I was on, that I was really willing to risk financial, potential setbacks and reputation risk and other things to pursue it. I was talking to a good friend of mine, Keith Crotch, who some might know. He was the former CEO of DocuSign. And Keith just says to me, "Man, it sounds like you went from stuck to passion struck." And the light bulb just went off, and that's how the name came about.
Okay. So, it's a very inspirational title, and this is coming at a time when a lot of people will start those New Year's resolutions. They start setting those goals to try to become their better self or their best self, but sometimes we can be met with doubt that maybe we're not going to stick to that goal or whatever it may be. And you talk about overcoming self-doubt in the book. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think self-doubt is something that faces all of us. And sometimes we see the people who we aspire to be at the top and think that they're different. But the fact of the matter is, all of us face self-doubt, face fear. And I know that was certainly the case for me. I think the first thing I would like to convey is that there should be no shame in feeling this, because it inflicts so many more people than we think. The second thing I would say is that recognizing it is oftentimes the first problem that we run into, because we don't want to show our own vulnerabilities. We don't want to show that there's something that's not going perfect in our lives. But once you do recognize that there is something going on, I think then the most difficult thing, at least for me, and I find for most people, is to actually take action. And that action, for many, is the stopping point for them overcoming these self-doubts.
So what do you hope people ultimately take from the book? I know that the subtitle here or the caption on the book says 12 powerful principles to unlock your purpose and ignite your most intentional life. So what are you hoping that we are able to take away within that?
So I wrote this because I see so many people right now who are stuck and they're struggling, just like I was stuck and struggling. And it manifests itself right now in some of the epidemics that we're seeing where people feel hopeless, helpless, or lonely. But when I look at all this and I look at myself at that time, I had self doubt and I had this imposter syndrome. But really, there was something else that was plaguing me. I had become so attached to the routine that I was in that my life had become boring in many ways. I was living what I describe in the book as this pinball life, where instead of playing the game of pinball, I was the pinball in the game, just getting bounced around by the distractions, everything that happens to you in life. And so, what I want to teach people how to do is to get out of that matrix of being the ball in the game and learning how to play the game of pinball so that you're directing the life that you want towards a life of significance, because that was what was lacking for me. I didn't feel like what I was doing mattered. I didn't feel like I was creating significance in the world. And that ultimately is what the book is all about.
Okay. And I know that the book isn't out yet, but where can we pre-order it?
You can pre-order the book on Amazon, bookshop.org, or you could go to my website, passionstruck.com/passionstruckbook.
Awesome. Well, John, thank you so much again for joining us today, and we'll make sure that we get a link to your book on our website as well, passionstruck at WQAD.com.